Hello, New Hampshire. Welcome to another episode of SeniorSpeak, one of the longest running programs on Concord Community TV. My name is Dan Wise, a volunteer for AARP, which is a sponsor for this show. Today, we're going to talk about vision. We all know that vision is one of the most important senses. Do you realize how important? Researchers say somewhere around 80% of the sensory information our brain receives comes from our eyes. When our eyes are open, our vision accounts for about 2/3 of the electrical activity of our brains. Many of us need help seeing, as you can see, but vision loss that impairs our ability to function increases with age. 37 million Americans have vision loss, and that means more than just needing glasses. Low vision affects 25% of those 80 and older. Most cases of vision loss in older adults are due to defined diseases or conditions such as glaucoma, macular degeneration, stroke. We usually can't retrieve that lost vision, but there are many effective strategies and tools to help people cope with vision loss. And my guest today to introduce us to some of these tools and techniques is Beth Daisy, who works at InSight, a nonprofit organization in Concord. Its mission is to help people with vision impairments, anyone at any age, any level of impairment, regardless of their life station or their life goals. Beth, welcome to SeniorSpeak, New Hampshire. There are a number of organizations that help folks who are blind or have vision problems. What distinguishes InSight?
Well, first of all, Dan, thank you so much for having me here on SeniorSpeak. And I am so excited to talk to our viewers and listeners about all the amazing things that InSight does to help people with vision impairments. Now, as you mentioned, there are a number of organizations that do serve both the disabled community as well as the vision impaired and the blind community. But InSight is the state's only private nonprofit that serves people of all ages. So we provide a comprehensive range of services for children, adults, and the elderly, regardless of age, severity of impairment, military status, or their goals in life. So that really does distinguish us because most of the other agencies only serve a portion of that vision impaired population, usually only serving people of a certain age or perhaps beyond a certain severity, or as the case with the VA, prior military service. And then some agencies like vocational rehabilitation are really looking to serve just people with educational or employment goals.
Yeah.
So we're excited that we can serve anybody in the state, and it really is our mission to bring dignity and confidence to anybody with a vision impairment.
Yeah, in researching this show, I looked at a website that the American Foundation for the Blind sent me to that said, these are all the resources in New Hampshire, and it was a really long list. And each of them had their own requirements and special conditions for what services they provide. Some folks may be still thinking that helping people with vision problems means a white cane or a guide dog, or teaching them how to read with Braille. But that's not what we're talking about, is it?
Well, thank you so much for addressing the elephant in the room because we often have to overcome that stereotype because certainly when people do think of services for the blind and visually impaired, they naturally think about the white cane, guide dogs, and Braille. Now, don't get me wrong, those are still really, really valuable tools, but let's talk about the numbers. So less than 10% of adults who are legally blind use a white cane. Even fewer use a guide dog. And in all reality, older adults who have established literacy early on in life and then lose their vision later in life usually don't start reading Braille. So they're great tools and they're important tools, but there are other tools in the toolbox. So when you think about some skills such as telling time, managing your appointments, maybe managing your medications or paying your bills or cooking in the kitchen, a white cane, a guide dog, and Braille is only going to get you so far. What you really need are the right tools, and we're happy to provide those tools for people to learn and thrive with vision impairment.
So if we look at what InSight does to assist adults with low vision, they first really need to have a medical exam so they know what the source of their vision loss is and what the particular circumstances are. What happens next if they're coming to Future InSight?
Yeah, absolutely, Dan. We do not want to be a substitute for people getting regular eye exams. It's so important that people are regularly seeing their optometrist or their ophthalmologist. And, I think of the optometrist, Dr. Dorothy Hitchmoff, and, she's been known to say something, and I'll paraphrase here, that looking into someone's eyes is like looking into their health. So even if somebody thinks that they have good vision or that their vision hasn't changed, your eye doctor is going to be able to see some really important things. That being said, we do get the eye report from the eye doctors, but people are much more than just their diagnosis and their visual acuity. So one of the first things that we do when we work with them is we do what's called a screening. And it's just a lot of questions that we ask the person on the phone. And the reason why is because consider that there's two people. Both may have macular degeneration, both could be legally blind, but if one person is 95 years old and they live in an assisted living facility, their needs may be very different. Perhaps they don't need to cook, their medications are being managed, maybe they're not worrying about their bills. Whereas somebody who's in their 60s or 70s, living in a rural home, who maybe is caring for a spouse, they have to cook, pay their bills, manage their medications, and maybe also worry about getting to their medical appointments. So the needs of those two people, even though they have the same diagnosis, are widely different. So we want to spend the time to get to know who we're working with and what their needs are. And then we can come up with a comprehensive and holistic care plan.
Mm-hmm. And we have a demo that we recorded a little bit earlier that goes through some of the tools and techniques that you use, and we can, I don't know if we want to show that now or if there's something else you want to talk about first.
Yeah, so what I do, I'm an occupational therapist. So I'm addressing the activities that people need to do or want to do as part of their daily lives. So that might look like everything from bathing, dressing, grooming, med management, cooking, paying their bills, all of those sorts of things that people do on a daily basis that tend to have a visual component. So I'll be working with those people to either provide them with adaptive equipment or with different strategies to make them successful. Now, I'm just one piece of the pie. We also have people who are certified orientation and mobility specialists. These are the people who are highly skilled and able to train people on the use of the white cane so they can safely navigate and be confident in navigating their environment. So that may, for some people, be navigating their home or their assisted living facility. For other people, it may mean crossing a busy street in Concord or maybe even navigating through an airport terminal. So I like to point out that as occupational therapists and certified orientation and mobility specialists, we work in these very concrete skills. We're a very skill-based profession. But at Future InSight, we also really believe in the social, emotional, and mental well-being of our clients. So if it's okay, I'd like to just take a minute to talk about some of those things.
Well, why don't we'll do the demo
Okay.
next. We'll do the demo next, and then when we come back, we'll talk about sort of the wider picture of the person that Future InSight deals with.
Okay, great.
All right. Okay, Beth, so we're here with a number of tools that you have. So can you show me what you've got here?
I'd love to, Dan. So we have a lot of low-tech devices as well as some higher-tech things here in front of you. So starting with that pad of paper right next to you. Seems pretty basic, but the lines on there are actually quite bold, and the spacing is a little bit further apart than you'd find on a standard pad. So what that allows people to do is write a little larger and see the lines that they're writing on. So that way they can actually read their shopping list. And as we move across the table, this is a large print address book. So sometimes we have to show people that there is an alternative to that same address book that they've been using for the past 40 years. People can read what's in this much more easily. As we continue to the center, this is a oversized check register, so much larger than the standard check register that somebody would find hidden behind their box of checks.
I never would have thought that, that a large check register would be available.
It's
somehow.
really great. So we like to leverage things like size, and this is an example of leveraging contrast. Can you guess what this is for, Dan?
I think that's an envelope.
You're absolutely correct. So
Contrast.
a lot of people will say that they can't address an envelope legibly, they can't write straight. So here they can see where they need to write the information. They can also feel where they need to write the information. So we're talking about contrast, which leads me to this next thing that we have right here. And we're going to talk about a few things for the kitchen. So it's a little bit difficult to see, but I have a black cutting board. Can you think why I might have a black cutting board?
Is it a contrast issue?
Absolutely.
Contrast.
So
Okay.
now this isn't a potato or an onion, but it is white. So if we had a white potato or a white onion, you can see that I have much more contrast against this black cutting board. And that's going to give people a lot more confidence to be cutting things. But I'll pick up my little prop. It's actually a set of large print measuring cups. So this makes it a lot easier for folks that still want to be baking and know how much they're measuring. All right, this next thing doesn't leverage contrast or size, it leverages our auditory sense. So people will often say when they're pouring a glass of water, it's very difficult for them to see and they're worried they're going to overflow. I'll give you a demonstration. And the person gets an auditory signal that they're about to overflow. It's as simple as that.
Yeah. Can you do that with portions on a plate?
Unfortunately, no, we can't. But back in the center of the display there, I have something else that's auditory. Can you go ahead and push that green button?
Yeah.
It is 3:37 p.m.
So this is an
course.
example of a talking device that announces the time. And we have lots of other talking devices too that may announce the temperature or even the temperature of your meat so you can make sure you don't get food poisoning. Have you seen these bumps before, Dan?
Looks like a pill thing.
These are actually what we call bump dots, and these are absolutely fantastic. Again, leveraging both contrast as well as our tactile sense, we can put these on microwaves, we can put these on people's oven controls so that they can find the right settings that they're looking to press. All right, we're going to move towards the back of the table, and I'll bring these up front. So I have 3 magnifiers resting on a Future InSight large print calendar. And one is very large, one is medium, and one is very small. Maybe you could tell me which one you think is the strongest.
Well, I don't know. Is this the strongest one? It's the biggest.
People often go for the biggest one thinking it's the strongest, but in reality, the largest magnifier is usually the weakest. So that is about a 1.75x. The rectangular one in your hand is 3.5.
Yeah, this
And
is
then
much bigger.
this little guy, very, very small, that's 14x.
Oh my gosh.
So take a quick
It's very
peek through
hard
there.
to. It's very hard. It's like you can really only see like one big letter at a time.
Exactly. And so would you want to read War and Peace that way?
I'm not sure. I think I could use this for maybe a pill box. I mean, pill box label.
Exactly. For people that need a really high degree of magnification, this may be okay to see the first couple letters of a medication to know it's their lisinopril, for example. But really, you're not going to read anything very long with that. So if somebody needs a high degree of magnification, we'll usually steer them to something electronic. So this is an example of a CCTV or closed circuit television that we have. And it's got cameras that point down at what is on the tray. And I have a flyer written in slightly larger than normal size print, maybe 12 or 14 point font.
Yeah.
And it's being projected onto the screen. So either when we move the sheet or when we move the whole tray back and forth, we can look at different portions of our written material. But more importantly, we can adjust the size. So if a person needs a really high degree of magnification, we can achieve that using this sort of a device here.
Okay. And that is something that you could use with a book? Or what
Absolutely.
things
You
can
know, a lot of people will choose to get their books in audio format, but for people who still want to read visually and need a high degree of magnification, electronic magnification is the way to go.
Now, we have talked before, and you also do a lot with apps.
Absolutely.
And so we have a video that you did that we'll show next about how you work with somebody's smartphone to make it more adaptable to them.
Absolutely. And everyone's smartphone is a little bit different. The principles generally hold true from device to device, but if people have questions, they can feel free to reach out and we can pay them a visit and show them exactly what they need to do on their phone.
So one of the simplest things that people can do to make their smartphones work a little bit better for them is to adjust the size of the font. So whether you have an Android phone like this or an iPhone, you're going to want to go to your settings, and then you're going to want to scroll down until you find the section that says accessibility. And a lot of times it's going to look like the symbol of a man with his legs open and arms out to the side. And then there should be a section for vision. Within the vision section, there'll be a lot of options that most likely you'll find helpful. But what we're going to be interested in is the font size. And you can see it's all the way at the smallest. And wow, we can make that quite a bit larger. And we can also make it bold. So I hope that helped.
Okay, so we've now seen a bunch of several of the tools and techniques that you use with people. And you work with people in the home typically. That's correct. Is that what happens?
Yes.
And does it involve other members of the family or in the household? How does that work?
Yeah, with the client's permission, we absolutely love to work with, caregivers and family members because it allows those skills to be carried over. For some people, it's not necessarily important for them to be 100% independent. Maybe it's about having that caregiver set somebody's iPad up so that they can listen to their talking books and enjoy a nice story for themselves.
Mm-hmm. And then you also deal with the wider aspect of the social aspect for people because vision loss does have some impact on isolation and on the ability of people to engage in the community.
Right. So there's an emotional toll that can also wear on people. And because of that, we want to make sure that we're addressing all of these facets. So I guess I would say that we'll start with, the mental health piece to say that we offer adjustment to blindness counseling. But, not everybody needs to go to counseling. So we have other things as well, one of them being a number of peer support groups. We have several throughout the state. And, I can work with an individual one-on-one in some skills, but at some point I will discharge somebody from therapy. But if they have a network of resources, specifically other people who've had that same lived experience or a similar experience, that's so valuable to keeping that person successful and thriving. Those are offered both in person as well as virtually, so we can, accommodate everybody's needs. And then beyond that, we have a number of different social opportunities, different groups and activities, again, both in person as well as virtual. And we try to cover a lot of different bases. So some may be artistic or craft-based. We have others that are more tech-based, such as working on the iPhone or people's Android phones, as well as accessible voting and cooking and even outings such as deep-sea fishing and hiking.
Mm-hmm. So how is Vision Future InSight funded? How do you provide these services?
Yeah.
If you could touch base on that a little.
Yeah, so we do bill to insurance when we're able to. So we are, of course, able to receive some funding from insurance, such as Medicare and other private insurance. But we do also rely on a lot of different grant sources. So we have grants. We also rely on donations, and that's really important. As a nonprofit, we're often asked, well, then how come you bill to insurance? And the simple answer is it allows us to serve more people. So when we're able to get a little bit from insurance, we then can serve more folks.
Mm-hmm. So now you've got some events coming up that you wanted to make sure people knew about, and I think there's a Walk for Sight, is it called? Is that what's coming up in May?
Absolutely. Thank you,
Okay.
Dan. Yes, we have a couple of things that we're really, really excited for. I think last year we had over 130 different activities, so that's more than 2 a week.
Wow.
But the two that we're most excited about are annual Walk for Sight. So not only is this our biggest fundraiser that's coming up on May 18th, it's right here in Concord, and it's going to start and end at the Capitol building. And this raises money, but I think more importantly, it also raises awareness. It raises awareness with the public and also with our elected officials on what issues are really important for people with vision impairment. So we really encourage everyone to come out and support us on May 18th, rain or shine.
Okay, great. And then you've got something I thought was really interesting, and that is it's an immersive way of providing the services that you were talking about adjusting to your low vision status, and it's called the Silver Retreats.
Absolutely. We're super excited about this. Now, I need to disclose that the Silver Retreat, this immersive 5-day experience for seniors with vision impairment, is funded through a couple of different funding sources. It's through the Rehabilitation Services, getting stuck up on
Of
the
the state?
association, the Rehabilitation Services Association,
Okay.
as well as some state funds. So the New Hampshire Department of Education Services for the Blind and Visually Impaired. And specifically, their older individuals who are blind and vision impaired program, which serves individuals who are 55 plus with severe vision impairment, has contracted with Future InSight to host 3 silver retreats a year. So March, June, and September. So this year, they will be held in Concord in March, Lebanon in June, and Nashua in September. And it's really fantastic because we put the individuals up for a week in a hotel, all inclusive, all meals are paid for. There's a really great participant to instructor ratio. We limit it to 12 people.
Wow.
And it's focused heavily on skill building. So activities of daily living, communication skills, cooking, tech skills, also orientation and mobility skills, but then all wrapped up in this social connectedness piece. So we address the adjustment to blindness. There's a lot of opportunity for people to interact with one another. And for a lot of people, this is their first time ever meeting someone else with a vision impairment.
Wow. Yeah, because there isn't really necessarily a natural way that that's happening out in the community.
Right.
If somebody is in that situation. Now, I remember I did see that the one in March in Concord is actually filled right
Correct.
now, right? But the next ones are in the fall. Is this one in
June
September?
in Lebanon
Oh,
and
June.
Nashua in
Okay.
September.
Okay. So those are coming up, and people from anywhere in the state can apply then?
People can apply. We're trying to serve certain segments of the state. Ideally, it would be great if we have people from one geographic area.
Okay,
It
so that
might-
maybe they can continue to have a connection or a relationship afterward.
Exactly. And, you know, it may surprise you to hear that on the past 7 times that we've done these retreats, people that show up on Monday as complete strangers leave on Friday as friends. And, you know, they use words like transformative to describe how meaningful the experience is to them.
Well, that's a great, sounds like a great service. Going practical here, if I'm a caregiver, what are some signs of vision loss that I should be aware of that is kind of a trigger?
Yeah, so there's a whole lot of things that could indicate that somebody's had a change in their vision. So anytime that someone notices something different, you really should get checked out by your eye doctor. But some of those things that are different might be noticing that somebody's they've stopped doing something that they normally would do. So maybe they've stopped reading the newspaper, stopped reading books. Maybe you've noticed that they're having more trouble than usual with their finances. Sometimes if you can't see the number of the balance due, you might write the wrong number on the check. Also, some conditions may cause things to look distorted. So people might report that something that's supposed to be straight, such as a doorway windows or window blinds, people may report that they look wavy or they look curvy. People may report that that their loved one is being more clumsy than normal. Maybe they're walking into things, knocking over a beverage on the table. So things that sometimes people just chalk up to, oh, this person is aging, can actually be a sign that there's been a change in their vision. So just be attentive to changes.
I also read somewhere that if sometimes they may not recognize people that they normally recognize, that because they're having trouble with faces.
Absolutely. That's really common with conditions that affect the central vision. Probably the one that people are most familiar with is macular degeneration. It robs people of their central vision. So they may say things like, well, I can see, but I just can't see. That's a common refrain. And so people will tell me, I can see that you have long hair, but I can't describe your face. And the way that sometimes can really impact people is that they'll withdraw from going the places that they normally would out of embarrassment, that they're not going to recognize people that they feel that they should recognize.
Yeah, I think that's something that happens with any number of disabilities. Sometimes is that the first sign is not something specific. It's more just this withdrawal from their past activities or their past associations.
Right. And that's where, again, having a network of people that understand that, or also that are going through it themselves, can help normalize that experience and really encourage people to move beyond that, because it's really a shame when people are no longer participating in the things that they enjoy and that bring them pleasure.
And as an occupational therapist, that's something that you are really, in fact, the people in your department that do the rehab work, they're all occupational therapists?
So yes, we have 5 occupational therapists that we work specifically in our area. And then we have a team of the orientation and mobility specialists, and then we have other providers that do the assistive technology supports, as well as the groups and activities. And if I can also throw in our amazing volunteers that we have. One of the things with vision loss that also leads to social isolation is that people are no longer able to drive typically.
Very important in New Hampshire.
Yes, with so many rural areas that are not served by public transportation. So we have a number of volunteers that are able to provide transportation to medical appointments or to shopping, as well as to just sometimes be a friendly caller, whether that be on the telephone or even in person, just as a friendly visitor.
So Future InSight has volunteer opportunities available too.
We do.
That's great. I think that's something I try to promote here on this show, is that is when there are some volunteer opportunities in an organization, and it sounds like that is a necessary component of the things that you guys do.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
It really allows us to serve our clients the way that we would want to be served if we had a vision impairment.
Okay. All right. Is there anything else that you think you want to let people know about? And we'll list the name of the website, the website address for Future InSight on a slide as the show ends. But if there's anything else that you want to say to people about Future InSight, about the work that you guys do.
Yeah, I'm just tremendously proud of the work that we do and how many clients we are able to serve. I am so fortunate to work for this organization because the work that we do is very meaningful, it's very impactful, and I've seen personally the way that we are able to transform people's lives. And so I guess I would just, put it out there that if you are struggling with vision loss and you think that you might benefit from services, please do reach out. If we're not the right agency for you, we're more than happy to put you in touch with other folks as well. We just want to see everyone with vision impairment living and thriving and living with dignity.
That's great. Thank you. Thank you very much for coming and explaining everything and bringing some of your tricks and tools. And we want to thank you for watching SeniorSpeak New Hampshire, and we'll be on all month this month, and we're also on the YouTube, the AARP YouTube channel also has this show available if you want to tell your friends about it, and we'll have a new show in April. But for now, thank you for listening and watching. I'm Dan Wise for SeniorSpeak New Hampshire.